There's a moment, right before something changes, where your whole body tenses up. Maybe it's a new job offer sitting in your inbox. Maybe it's a relationship ending, or a doctor telling you it's time to adjust your routine, or just moving to a new city. And in that moment, something strange happens. Your heart doesn't know the difference between this could be great and this could kill me. It just knows something is different now, and different, to your brain, has always meant danger. That's what we're going to unpack today. Not just why change is uncomfortable. Everyone knows that part. We're going deeper. Why does your brain treat an exciting new opportunity the same way it treats a threat? Why do so many people stay in jobs they hate, relationships that drain them, routines that stopped working years ago? Not because they don't know better, but because some ancient wiring in their skull is quietly screaming at them to stop. By the end of this video, you're going to understand exactly what's happening inside your head every time you resist something new. And more importantly, you're going to see why that resistance isn't weakness. It's not laziness. It's not a character flaw. It's one of the oldest survival tools we have, and it's just a little confusing about what year it is. Let's get into it. The body keeps score. Here's something most people don't realize. Fear of change isn't really about the change itself. It's about prediction. Your brain is, at its core, a prediction machine. Every single second, it's taking in information from your eyes, your ears, your skin, your gut, and it's trying to answer one question: what happens next? And it answers that question by comparing what's happening right now to everything that's happened before. That's it. That's the whole system. Your brain doesn't know the future. It only knows the past. So it uses the past as a rough map, and it constantly checks, does this match something I've survived before? When your life follows a pattern, same job, same house, same relationship, same morning routine, your brain gets really good at predicting what happens next. And when it can predict what happens next, it can relax. It doesn't need to spend extra energy on high alert. That's actually one of the reasons routine feels so good. It's not boring to your nervous system. It's safe. Now here's the flip. The moment something new shows up, a new city, a new manager, a new diagnosis, a new relationship status, your brain loses its map. It can't predict what happens next anymore. And an animal that can't predict what happens next is, biologically speaking, an animal in danger. It doesn't matter if the danger is actually a promotion. Your brain doesn't read nuance first. It reads uncertainty, and it treats uncertainty like a threat until proven otherwise. This is why people can logically know a change is good for them, and still feel dread about it. The logical brain and the alarm system brain are not the same system, and they don't always agree. Loss feels bigger than gain. There's a concept from behavioral science that explains a huge chunk of this, and once you hear it, you'll start noticing it everywhere in your own life. It's called loss aversion, and the basic idea is simple. Losing something hurts roughly twice as much as gaining the equivalent thing feels good. Picture this. Someone offers you a bet. Flip a coin. Heads, you win $100. Tails, you lose $100. Purely on paper, that's a fair bet. 50-50. But almost nobody wants to take that bet. Why? Because the pain of imagining losing $100 feels much sharper than the pleasure of imagining winning it. Your brain isn't doing math. It's doing emotional math, and in emotional math, loss wins every time. Now stretch that idea over your whole life. Every time you consider a change, some part of your brain is running the numbers, except the numbers aren't about money. They're about identity, comfort, relationships, routine. Leaving a stable job to chase something better isn't really weighed as possible bigger paycheck versus current paycheck. It's weighed as guaranteed comfort I have right now versus the terrifying possibility of losing everything. And because loss is felt so much more intensely than gain, the scale tips towards staying put, even when staying put is clearly the worse option. This is why people stay in relationships long after they've stopped being happy. It's not that they don't see the problems, it's that leaving feels like a guaranteed loss, while staying feels like a maybe it gets better gamble, and your brain will pick the maybe over the certain loss almost every single time. The comfort of the known villain. Here's a strange truth about people. We will often choose a bad situation we understand over a good situation we don't. Psychologists call pieces of this the status quo bias, but I like to think of it as the comfort of the known villain. If you know exactly how your difficult boss is going to act every day, that predictability, even though it's unpleasant, gives your brain something to hold on to. You know the shape of the problem. You've built coping mechanisms around it. It's bad, but it's bad you've mapped out completely. A new job, even a better one, is an unmapped territory. New personalities, new expectations, new ways you might fail in front of people you don't know yet. Your brain looks at known bad and unknown good, and shockingly often picks known bad. Not because it's smarter, because it's older. This part of your brain evolved in a world where unfamiliar territory really did contain things that could kill you. Wandering into unknown land as an early human wasn't just uncomfortable, it was often fatal. So the wiring that says stick with what you know kept our ancestors alive long enough to pass that wiring down to us. The problem is, we're not dodging predators anymore. We're deciding whether to switch careers, move across the country, or finally have that hard conversation. But the fear circuitry hasn't updated its software. It's still running ancient code on modern problems. Your identity doesn't want to move either. There's another layer to this that people rarely talk about, and it might be the most important one. Change doesn't just threaten your comfort, it threatens your identity. Think about how you describe yourself to other people. I'm a teacher. I'm the reliable one in my family. I'm someone who doesn't quit. Over years, you build a story about who you are, and that story becomes part of how your brain organizes reality. The moment a change asks you to become someone different, a person who quit, a person who started over, a person who admitted something needed to change, it's not just asking you to do something new. It's asking you to rewrite the story you've told yourself for years. That's why even changes that seem small on paper, like retiring, or becoming a parent, or losing a role that used to define you, can feel like losing a piece of yourself. Because in a very real sense, you are. The old identity has to make room for a new one, and that process is genuinely disorienting, even when the change itself is wanted and welcomed. This is part of why people resist advice that's obviously good for them. If someone tells you to eat differently, move differently, work differently, live differently, and you've spent decades being the person who does it this way, accepting the advice means accepting that the old version of you was, in some way, wrong or incomplete. And that's a much harder thing to swallow than the actual behavior change itself. A story worth remembering. There's an old story about a group of prisoners who were finally released after years locked away. You'd expect pure relief, right? Freedom after captivity. But study after study on long-term institutionalization shows something unexpected. A number of people who leave highly structured environments after a long time, whether that's prison, the military, or even a long hospital stay, struggle badly with the sudden freedom. Not because freedom is bad, because their brain had adapted so completely to a fixed structure that the absence of that structure felt like standing on ground that wasn't there. Freedom, more choices, more possibility, is supposed to feel good, and it often does, eventually. But in the raw first moments, it can feel like falling. That's the paradox sitting at the center of almost every fear of change. We think we're afraid of bad outcomes. Often, we're actually afraid of the open space where no outcome has been decided yet. So what do you do with all this? Here's where this stops being just an interesting psychology lesson and starts being something you can actually use. The first thing worth understanding is that the discomfort you feel before a change is not a signal that something is wrong. It's not your gut warning you away from a mistake. Most of the time, it's just your prediction system running out of data. That feeling in your chest before a big decision isn't always wisdom. Sometimes it's just your nervous system saying, I don't have a map for this yet, which is a completely different message than, don't do this. Learning to tell the difference between those two feelings, this is genuinely a bad idea, versus, this is just unfamiliar, might be one of the most useful skills a person can build. One way to start is to ask yourself a simple question the next time you feel resistance to something new. Am I afraid because I have real evidence this will hurt me, Or am I afraid because I simply don't know what will happen? Those are very different fears, and only one of them deserves to control your decision. Another thing that helps is shrinking the unknown on purpose. Big changes feel overwhelming because your brain is trying to predict an entire unfamiliar future all at once. But you don't have to map the whole future, you just have to map the next step. People who successfully navigate major life changes rarely do it by picturing the whole mountain. They do it by finding the next footing. What's the smallest version of this change I could try this week? Shrinking the unknown gives your prediction system just enough data to calm down, even before the full change happens. And maybe the most freeing realization of all is this: your past self doesn't get a vote on who you're allowed to become. The story you've told about yourself for years was written by someone with less information than you have now. Updating that story isn't betrayal. It's just what growing up looks like, over and over again, for your whole life. So the next time you feel that tightness before a big decision, that pull back toward the familiar, even when the familiar stopped working a long time ago, remember what's actually happening. You're not broken, you're not weak, you're running incredibly old software that was built for a world with saber-toothed tigers, trying to make sense of a world with career changes and first dates and doctor's appointments. Fear doesn't mean stop. It usually just means you're standing somewhere new. And every single person you admire for reinventing their life, at some point, felt exactly what you're feeling right now. If this made you see your own hesitation a little differently, stick around, because next time we're going deeper into another part of the mind that quietly runs your life without asking permission first.